Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, we are working on our cross beam member here off of my late 1800s metal planer, New Haven metal planer that we've been working on restoring for a while. Been in the process of scraping this piece in and getting everything like it needs to be. And in a previous episode on this, we've already got the bottom part of this scraped in flat. Now I'm working on some alignment issues on the back side of this. So there are these two pieces right here. There's one on here and one behind me. And these ride up and down on the uprights on the planer to adjust the height of this, this cross beam. And then on the other side, you got the piece we've already scraped in, and that's the part that the clapper box moves left and right. Now, it's important that these pieces here be in the same plane as the piece up underneath the bottom. So they need to be parallel both this way and this way with what we've already got scraped in. Now, when I first started, I was trying to adjust these by actually scraping the surface on the other side. And after doing some measuring, I realized I had a couple of issues. I was noticing that it was dropping off. The height on the front was less than in the middle. And once I got things and really started mapping out these pieces, I realized that there's quite a bit of wear, and these are not very flat. In fact, there's on this side here, this front side is about 4.5 thousandths higher than an area right here in the middle. And then it actually raises back up on the back side back here. So it kind of dips down. It's got a low spot in the center. So I've decided, well, instead of trying to scrape the bottom and get these in plane, we're going to just scrape these pieces here and get them in plane. They need to be scraped anyway. These are rub surfaces, so they're going to be going against another scrape surface. So now's the time to do it. Now, based on my previous measurements, this was the high spot down here, and it's basically dropping off. It will drop down about 3 thou in the middle, 2 to 3 thou. I can't remember exactly what that last measurement was. I got a -3 there from the first one, but it is dropping downhill. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do a series of step scraping again. Start up here, my first pass, I'm going to go all the way down. We'll come back and probably just do a couple of series and just moving it up, and hopefully what that'll do is kind of lower the front end down. We'll take it over, do some measurements. I'll do both sides. So we'll just start. Tell you what I think I'm going to do is sharpen my blade first. We're not moving a lot of metal there, so be right back. Try this again. All right, we're going to cut across here and just do a cross pattern. Forgotten I had shortened my stroke. I'm going to get a full length on here. When we get more toward finishing scraping, we tend to shorten the stroke of our scrape marks, and I've forgotten I had done that. So I'm going back to more of a full length stroke here. These studs are kind of in the way, but we'll work around them. I'm going to see if I can get these studs out of my way. That is much better. All right, we'll come back across it again. This time we're only going to go about halfway. A little bit shorter area this time, just shorten them up each time. All right. Now for this, I'm going to use a straight edge to see how we're spotting, and I'm going to make sure we get this we're getting a nice plane before we take it up back to the surface plate. So let me get a straight edge blued up and we'll come check that. Changed my mind. Instead of using a straight edge, I've got this granite angle plate. I blued up the front face on it. This is it's just like a surface plate, but it's just a small piece that I can take over here and see what we got. So we can see I'm high here and high here. So let me do some work on that. And I'll bring you back after I get a good spotting on there, and we'll take her over and start checking her for parallelism. It's just going to take some work here, so I'll be back. You've seen the process. Right now I'm going to scrape for contact, and then we'll check for parallelism. I thought I'd zoom you in here. I've made, I don't know, 5 or 6 passes on this thing now, and it's starting to show some interesting patterns that I thought I'd show you here real quick. First off, you know, I'm getting decent coverage in this area down here. Still a little bit low right here. I've got a big hole in the middle, and that's kind of where my indicator was dropping off about 3 thou. It's picking back up here in the back. But what's interesting is I could tell when I took this apart that there was some wear on this side over here. And if you look, it's almost like drawing a straight line right here, and it stops right here. So there's definitely a low spot in there. So we're trying to bring all this down till all this comes back into contact again. And I'm just hitting the blue, guys. I'm staying out of these low spots, trying to hit off the high spots and just trying to lower everything down. It's going to take several passes. 3 thousandths may not sound like a lot, but when you're scraping, that's quite a bit of metal to have to remove. So we're just working our way across. I'll bring you back when we get a little bit closer. All right, guys, I've been working on this for an hour or 2 or so, I don't know. But I'm pretty happy with what we got here. We've got good coverage from one end to the other. There's arguably a couple of light spots in there. Really, this edge kind of cuts in here. There's a little bit of a hole right here, but most of it actually isn't actually being covered. I kind of scraped outside. There's an area up here, but this is actually a casting defect. There's nothing I can really do with that. Maybe a little bit light in here, but guys, this is probably acceptable like it is. But before I do anything else to it, I want to take it over to the surface plate and now check it. So by getting this coverage in here, I know that I'm on a plane. I know I've got everything flat on a plane pretty well. But what I don't know is what this plane is in relation to the plane underneath it. And they need to be parallel to one another in both directions. So we're going to take it over there. We'll test it with the indicator, get an idea where our highs and lows are. If there are any, hopefully it's going to come out pretty darn good. But more than likely, we're going to have to come back in here and do some step scraping on this to do some adjustments in alignment. Also, while I got it, I'm going to go ahead and map out the other side a little bit better and get ready to start the process on that one as well. Ready to do some inspecting here and see what kind of how coplanar we are with everything. So we know that the bottom has been scraped into a plane. We verified that on the surface plate. We know that this has been scraped into a plane. We verified that with the straight edge we were using. Now the question is, are these two planes on the same plane, or are they out of adjustment? And probably going to be out of adjustment, and we're going to have to do a little bit more work to fix that. What I've done here is I've got a tense indicator on here. And I've already come in here and done a little bit of looking on this and found that this is my lowest spot right down here. I'm going to make that 0, and I'm going to work with basically positive numbers on here. I'm going to write the numbers on the part so I have a map that kind of shows me what we've got to do. So we're going to start, just to let you know, I've got a gauge block up underneath this. What that is allowing me to do is just kind of get an average across those high spots. Of course, when we hand scrape, we call it a flat surface, and it is a flat surface, but really the blue places are on that plane, and we have individual points of contact, which is what we want when you have two parts that are moving against one another. But because there is differences in these high spots and low spots, by putting that gauge block across there, I'm taking the average height across that area that we have there. And again, that's going to be 0. So I'm going to come over here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write 0 right here. I'm going to come over here now, and we'll bring our indicator on here. And looks like we're at about 1.1 thousandths. So I'm going to work in 10 thousandths. So I'm going to just call this as 11. That's 11 10,000ths of an inch, 1.1 thousandth of an inch. But I'm just going to put 11 on here. That's 11 10,000ths. Okay, we'll come over here. And we're at about 15 10,000ths. I know the number looks big, but it's really not as big as it sounds. 14 10,000ths, 1.4 thousandths of an inch. And I'm going to call that 36. I already knew this was my high spot right here. And 24. All right, so again, the numbers are big, but the distances are pretty small. We've got about 3.6 thousandths inch higher on this end than we do down here. It does tend to kind of go downhill, and it kind of tends to go downhill in this way. So what we're going to do is some step scraping to straighten this out. And tell you what I'm going to do. Let's get my Sharpie pen. We're going to start by kind of step scraping this area. I got 24, 25, 26, so kind of in that area. 18 and 16. I'm going to kind of do these together, do these together, and then kind of do that together. We're not even going to touch there. And probably what I'm going to do is we'll do one pass, two passes. Excuse me. All of this area will get one pass. This will get two passes, three passes, four passes, five passes. If that makes sense. So after a couple of rounds of step scraping on here, I'm starting to get things a little bit better. My numbers are a lot lower now. Still got some, we're approaching 20 here. But basically what we've got is this thing is still a little bit higher on this end. This is my zero end. Still kind of moving downhill and also moving downhill in this direction. So I'm getting ready to do another series of step scraping, but really kind of bringing this end down and probably focusing a little bit more on this end, trying to get everything level on here. So we're making progress. It's just it just takes work. The scraping, you're only moving a few 10,000ths of an inch per pass, and when you got 15, 20 thousandths that you got to take off, it just takes multiple passes to get there. At some point in time, it's usually easier to machine this stuff and get the bulk of the metal off that you got to do by machining, but I really don't have a machine that I can take this to get that metal removed. So we're just gonna do it by hand. Just takes time and effort. All right, after another little series of step scraping, I'm a lot happier with the numbers I'm seeing here. It's not perfect, but in the grand scheme of things, it's so much better than it was, and probably better than it was even when it was new. So this is kind of my low spot here is 0. Actually, this little corner up here drops down a little bit below, but there's a casting defect in there, so I'm kind of taking that out. That's a -2, but because of this casting defect, I'd have to go way down in there before I'd ever get that out, and it's just not worth it. I've got contact up there. It's fine. And outside of that, the highest number I've got is a 5, which is a half a thou. That's, in my opinion, I can live with what we got right here. And I'm getting good blue across here. I've got good coverage, so I'm pretty happy with it. So I think what we're going to do now is go over to the other side and start working on it. We need to get it in the same plane and also down at the same level as this one. So I need to go over there and map that one out now and kind of see how far we got to go. So we're ready to start here on the other side, and I've already kind of mapped this out ahead of time, so you can kind of see my numbers here, and I've even got some lines in here. It might be kind of confusing to look at, but bottom line, what we're seeing on this is down on this end about 4.8 thou high. I think that was my highest number, 47. There's a 50 right there, so 5 thou high, kind of on this end. It drops down, and just like we were measuring before, I was losing about 4 thou, and I wasn't quite going all the way up here. It actually goes to 0 right here. This is a low spot, and then it starts raising back up. So we're up about 2.5, almost 3 thou high, higher than the 0 over here. So again, it has a dip in the middle. So I've kind of got some lines in here. We're going to do step scraping again. I'll start by scraping this. This is my number 1, and then I'll probably double scrape it, and then I'll go into this 2 area, double scrape that, 1 and 2, and there's a 2 up here. I'll double scrape this, and then 3, so I'll double scrape basically from here down, and I'll do this up here again. Go into my 4, which is this whole area and this whole area, and then finally I'll probably just put a crosshatch pattern across the whole thing, which will at least give me some scrape marks in this area here to start working off of. So we got a lot of work to do. I'm not going to bore you guys with this. I'll bring you back after we kind of get this down. And compared to the other side, so I've still got my indicator set on 0. Right there, I'm reading about 4.5 thou above 0, and we're about 4 thou high. So we're actually in pretty decent plane from one side to the other, at least when we bring it down to 0. I drop it down, we're about 5 thou high here. When I get everything leveled out, we're going to be pretty close to being on height with the other side, which is good. And really right now, it's even too early to even start worrying about trying to futz with that. We will worry about that once we kind of get everything leveled out. We'll double check that then and start figuring out how to get both sides level with one another. I'll bring you back after I do some scraping. Well, I've been at it pretty hard here the last hour and a half or so, getting this thing scraped down. After I did my step scraping, just kind of let you know what happened. I had a big high spot here, and it was kind of touching up in here. And then over the course of just knocking those blue areas down, bringing the high spots down, I've now got pretty good coverage through here. And again, we're roughing right now. This is not a finished scrape job by any means, but as it is, this is actually doesn't look bad. My low spot was kind of in here, and it really took a while to get this area to finally get a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And I've got a line drawn through here. I kind of scraped outside the area. But this little spot in here where we're just starting to get some blue, there's hardly any scrape marks at all in there. That was my lowest of lows. But we've got it scraped, it's in a plane, so now we are going to take it back over to the surface plate and start checking alignment again, same as we did on the other side, and we'll see what we got to do to get it parallel in both directions and also at the same height and level as the other side. So probably going to have some more scraping to do unless I just get really, really lucky, which probably won't happen. So let's go check it out. Well, guys, I must be living right. This is out of the chute a lot better than I would have ever thought. So just kind of mapping it out. My lows are still kind of in this area. I did go a little under 0 right in here, but again, there's a casting defect in this general area, and that may be kind of interfering with my measurement there. My highest spot is right back up in here. We're about 6/10, 7/10, 5/10, so about a 1/2 thou roughly in here, which is kind of on par with the other side. Interesting thing too is when I was checking this from one side to the other, I went over and I zeroed it out kind of in this area on the other side, which was a +4 10,000ths over there, and came over here and it was within just a couple of tenths of being the same. So and this is a +6, so I mean we're virtually on the same plane on both sides, on same height. So I'm pretty happy with what I got here. I think I'm going to leave it alone. I've got some more scraping to do on this part, and I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and finish the other scraping and then come back and we'll check everything again at the very end and do any tweaks that we need to, and probably scrape both of these surfaces to try to get a little bit better contact, areas of contact than what we have, shorten up our stroke on our scraper. So we got a little bit more fine tuning to do, but guys, I'm pretty much within a half a thou in every direction on this thing, and for right now, I'm tickled with that. So I can't believe it. I really am just blown away that I got lucky, and that's all it was, guys. It wasn't skill. Promise you, it was pure luck, and I'll take luck anytime I can get it. Well, there we go. More scraping done, or at least mostly done, and more scraping still left to go. So next step for me is we got the dovetail up on the front here as well as the back side. I need to scrape both of these, get the dovetail flat all the way across, get this backside flat all the way across, and then start making measurements to make sure that they are parallel to one another. So more alignment stuff going on here as we continue on. And I'm probably going to have to make a little adjustment to my fixture over here to be able to scrape this dovetail to get it at an angle. So we got some carpenter work to do to get that done, but that's next on the agenda. So get back at it, and with that, that's going to be a wrap on this video, guys. Thanks as always for watching. As always, leave comments if you like. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll catch you on the next video.